As of right now, it is very obvious who is stronger between the two main characters in Black Clover. Asta is clearly stronger than Yuno, and it likely isn't even close right now. Asta's Devil Union is just clearly too much for even a Boreas Spirit Dive Yuno. This is proven now that we know that the 100% Dark Triad are equal to that of Lilith and Nama, as stated by Noct. And Yuno is struggling against a 100% Xenon from what we have seen so far. Meanwhile, Asta took on two Supreme Devils in Lilith and Nama and was absolutely clapping them, beating them so easily to the point where they needed to fuse. If Asta can easily defeat two Supreme Devils, and Yuno can't defeat someone who is equal to a Supreme Devil, then clearly, if the two were to go at it, Yuno would not come out as the victor here. But, as we know, Black Clover mangaka Yuki Tabata has developed an amazing rivalry between these two orphan brothers, and while they will often surpass the other, even sometimes in wide gaps, they will eventually catch up to each other once more. So, we know that somehow, some way, Yuno will need to find a way to close the wide gap between the two of them. And I do believe that I have a theory as to how and why Yuno will actually surpass Asta. Yes, even Devil Union Asta at some point in the series. Now I don't think it will be permanent, as Asta will probably catch up, but Yuno will at least need to be a near equal to Asta by the time they finally have their battle that Tabata has been building up on forever. This theory builds up upon a previous theory that I had months ago, but with far more evidence than before as I've done more research, and there have been a lot more chapters in the manga in the meantime. So, please stay tuned for the video, and also wait towards the end, as I have a bonus point for the theory on how Yuno will surpass Devil Union Asta. So I'll briefly go over my established points in my previous Yuno theory, before going over any further points. For one, we know that it is very likely that Boreas Yuno will not be anywhere close to his full Spirit Dive form. We know this because Yuno actually borrows and combines his powers with the Wind Spirit Sylph Bell, and the last time we saw her, she had 2 full wings and 2 budding wings. This means that she is still growing in power as well, and also is not at her own full power, but will be when she gets a full 4 wings, or at the very least will be stronger. But since we know that both Yuno and Bell progress together, then at some point Yuno will get to draw on even more power from the Wind Spirit and also gain his own 4 wings. Just remember how huge the difference is in power between a single wing Spirit Dive Yuno and a 2-wing Spirit Dive Yuno. If Yuno gets 2 more wings, then his power will grow exponentially. Also, he'll probably get 2 more weapons, 2 more in addition to that of Zephyr and Boreas. We know this because Yuno so far has 2 weapons named after 2 of the Greek wind gods, Zephyr for Zephyrus and Boreas for Boreas. These gods are the 4 winds because of the 4 directions, and thus there will then be Notus and Eurus, the wind gods of the north and the east. I don't know exactly what the weapons will be when he gets them, but we just know that they probably will come. Also because there's a lot of parallels and duality between Yuno and Asta. Asta currently has 4 weapons: the Demon Slayer, Demon Destroyer, Demon Dweller, and Demon Slasher, swords, and katana. Yuno, he really only has 2 main ones so far. It just all stacks up too well that Yuno in the future will get 2 more weapons so that he can match Asta, so that the dynamic between the two continues beautifully. Now, if you guys do enjoy this video, please leave a like and subscribe, as well as turn on your notifications. You can also join my Discord community that is linked in the description, as well as follow me on Twitter. And also shout out to Polsky Art for another great art piece for the thumbnail. I will leave a link in the description to his Twitter down below as well. I think it's very important to go over here that it is very likely that Yuno is actually using god powers or divine powers when he's in the Boreas or Zephyr forms. There are multiple times where the power of the spirits are considered divine, and this is even stated in the guidebook as well. Remember, divine means godly, essentially. And the fact that Yuno has been using godly or divine powers has actually been foreshadowed ever since Chapter 12 of the Black Clover Manga. This is during the dungeon, and in this arc, before even gaining the Wind Spirit, he created a spell called Celestial Wind Arc. If you don't know, one of the main definitions for the word celestial is that of a divine or heavenly celestial being. Essentially, that means gods. And while I know that a lot of people like to say that these are just names that Tabata is using to sound cool, I just don't see it that way. For one, we know that the other members of the Light Triad are either already using god powers or will probably use god powers. Asta is in contract with Libe, who is a devil. Lucifero is stated by his own spell to be an evil god. If devils are evil gods, then Libe is likely a god. I also made a whole ass video on Noelle and her being a sea goddess, which is filled with tons of evidence, so you should definitely check that out if you're not already. So, Yuno using god powers is actually the natural path that Tabata is setting up here. I'll explain more now. In Greek mythology, there are the 4 Greek wind gods: Zephyrus, Boreas, Notus, and Eurus. But they are all actually lesser and below the true god of wind, Aeolus, who actually can use all 4 of these winds at his own will.
Are you surprised? Admit it. I can see you're surprised. Who are you? I am Aeolus, god of wind. This is my island, where soft breezes and raging tempests all begin.
Yuno is the Prince of the Spade Kingdom, and I think that he will become the King of the Spade Kingdom and the King of the Winds, just like Aeolus. And this is also how I think that Asta could become the Wizard King, and even possibly the new King of the Devils once he takes down Lucifero. There's actually a story from Greek mythology, which really makes me think that Tabata read this story while in the process of creating Yuno's character arc. That is the story of Juno, and their interaction with Aeolus, the King of the Winds. Juno sought out Aeolus and his immense wind powers so that she could save her son from a rival's fleet of armada ships. So she offered him a nymph in exchange for him to use his massive wind powers upon the fleet. A nymph is a female nature spirit. Bel is a sylph and a nymph. Essentially, a sylph is a type of nymph, like how all humans are primates, but not all primates are humans. It is seemingly Bel that allows Juno the power of the Greek winds. Makes me wonder if this exchange between Juno and Aeolus actually happened in the Black Clover world, and Bel was actually once married to the god of wind, and this then allows her to give Yuno divine wind powers. It'd be very interesting because Juno is such a close name to that of Yuno. I remember even in the old unofficial chapters of Black Clover, Yuno's name was Juno in those translations. Even further, Yuno is the son of Lord Lois and Lady Seal. The name Seal means sky or heaven, and Lois means lord. This very well could mean that their son Yuno Grimburial will become the Lord of the Sky or the Lord of the Heavens, essentially because of the god powers. The narrative of this theory begins to unravel further, as we know that the Spade Kingdom had their own ancient demons, except there was 2 of them, and it was the task of the Grimburials to protect the Spade Kingdom against them. Lois was so heavily pushing for Yuno to become the king and protector of the kingdom, even though Yuno was just a newborn, and we know that the day of Yuno that he was born, a light had shone from the winter storm clouds. A light from the sky is very common symbolism and theme in fiction and mythology as it being the light of heaven, making the possibility of Yuno being the Lord of the Heavens very interesting, especially since they need a protector from the demons or devils within the Spade Kingdom. It really just all adds up. We know that Tabata takes a lot of stories and myths from our world as inspiration and puts it into Black Clover, like with Faust. Did Tabata take the story of Juno, the nymph, and the wind god Aeolus, and implement that into his own story in a different way as well? And essentially Yuno will use all the 4 wind gods. Maybe Aeolus died in the last cliff-off activation, and maybe he died saving humanity, and now Yuno is becoming the next one, so he can also prevent this cliff-off from happening as well. When it is explained to us that the Spade Kingdom is the land of the demons, so far, it doesn't really seem so. They sure had 2 ancient demons, but they are really the land of demons because of just 2 ancient demons? I mean, Clover had 1, and they're not called the ancient demon. They're the land of the demons. Maybe they actually were just a bunch of gods in the Spade Kingdom, and that is why Yuno's birth was so important, and why the Spade Rebel was so stuck on the fact that Yuno was born with wind magic. What if a lot of this demon talk is just other gods that have been demonized, like how the elves were demonized, and the Tales even morphed to that of an actual tribe of demons by the stories of the royal houses? Now, even if you still pair all this up, that Yuno is using 4 Greek wind gods and becomes the Lord of the Sky, well, still, Asta has anti-magic, and Yuno will have magic. Asta will still have a huge elemental advantage no matter what, no matter how much more magic power Yuno gets, how much more mana. If he gets 2 more wind spirit weapons that are like Zephyr and Boreas but even stronger, he gets 4 wings, whatever, he becomes the king of the wind. Still, Asta has anti-magic, which is an elemental advantage essentially over every single magic in the series. So I believe that if Yuno is to surpass Asta, one way to further make this as a possibility is by taking a page from Kyoto's playbook. Kyoto used treasure swords and paired that with his magic because the swords were physical. He could actually fight with Asta's anti-magic swords, whereas Yuno's wind weapons, in theory, would falter and wither to the anti-magic blades. Say, for example, Yuno found some type of physical sword, maybe the one like the one from the dungeon, then mastered it and paired it with his magic. he would then partially negate that elemental advantage that Asta has so heavy against him. Maybe even find a sword that can house his magic stone and amplify its power even further. If Kyoto could use physical swords to such an advantage against Asta, imagine a full Spirit Dive Yuno, the King of Winds Yuno, the God of Wind Yuno, with a sword, a physical sword that can go against the Demon Slayer, Demon Slasher, Demon Dweller, and Demon Destroyer sword. Maybe even Yuno will wrap Zephyr around the physical sword, which would amplify the both of them drastically. So overall, that's how I think it's possible that Yuno could surpass Asta. He gets more wind god powers, he becomes Aeolus, the king of the winds, maybe even higher than that, he becomes the lord of the heavens, and then maybe he will use a physical sword, something physical that he can use as an advantage against Asta. It has been stated several times that physical objects, physicals, are the only weaknesses towards anti-magic because they are not made out of magic. So let me know your thoughts of this video and this theory down below. Do you think Yuno will get 4 wings in a Spirit Dive? Do you think he'll get 2 more weapons named after the 2 Greek wind gods? Do you think at that point where he's using all 4 of the Greek winds that he will just be called Aeolus, and that'll be like either his God of Wind form or his Aeolus form? I think it's something that's very likely. So let me know your thoughts down below. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment, subscribe, turn notifications, join my Discord, and follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to check out Polsky Art for checking out his amazing commissions. Every single one he's made for me I really like. So with that being said, hope you guys all have an amazing day. Plus...